it diminishes the office of the presidency for the president-elect to peddle these allegations. All right, I agree with him on that. I do think that Donald Trump suggesting that diminishes the office of the presidency, and so I think Trump was wrong there. But then he goes on to talk about the effort to call for these recounts in these states. He says, quote, similarly, the recount in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are also harmful because they make people believe that something was amiss with no evidence in support and no chance of changing the result. News that Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein has requested a recount in Wisconsin and will likely do the same in Michigan and Pennsylvania has raised faint hopes among Hillary Clinton supporters that somehow Donald Trump will not be the next president of the United States. Now that Clinton's campaign has said it will participate in the recount efforts, those supporters' hopes have been lifted even higher. But to put the matter bluntly, they should give up that hope. There is essentially zero chance that the recounts in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania will change Trump's lead, which number in the thousands, not the hundreds, in all three states. This is not Florida 2000. On election night in 2000, George W. Bush held a 1,784 vote lead over Al Gore in Florida's election. The recount, when it was finally done, reduced Bush's lead to 537. But still, he goes on to say, this is not Washington in 2004, where a recount reversed the result, handing Democrat Christine Gregory a 129-vote win over Republican Dino Rossi after he initially had a 261-vote election night. This is not Minnesota 2008, where a recount gave Democrat Al Franken, remember that, a 225-vote win over Republican Norm Coleman, reversing Coleman's initial lead of 215 votes. And then here's the key point that he's making here, this professor of law specializing in elections. He says, quote, all of these recounts had one significant fact in common. The margin of victory was in the hundreds, not the thousands, let alone the tens of thousands. In the past 15 years, a statewide recount has reversed the winner from an election night tally only 3 times. In the Washington 2004 governor's race, and that was a 390 vote shift. The 2008 Minnesota U.S. Senate race, a 440 vote shift. And a 2006 election in Vermont, which had a 239 vote change. That's it. So he goes on to say, a Clinton supporter might say, but what if the machines were hacked? What if the election was actually rigged? It's an ironic sentiment given that Trump was the one claiming widespread election rigging before the election, and it was Hillary Clinton supporters blasting Trump for refusing to say whether he would honor the results. Prolonging the campaign by seeking a recount breeds unwarranted doubt about the legitimacy of our elections. Our democratic system relies on everyone accepting the result. So let me make sure we're clear on this, folks, okay? There have only been three statewide elections that have ever been reversed or overturned based on recounts. And all 3 of those only swung the vote by about 200 or 300 or 400. That's it. So in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, the recounts, yes, they could end up changing the total tally by a few hundred. That is possible. But Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes. He won Wisconsin by over 27,000 votes. He won Pennsylvania by 70,000 votes. And for Hillary Clinton to win in this effort of recounting, all 3 of those states would have to be overturned. Now stop and think about that a moment, folks. Now, it might not need to be all 3. Let me think. Pennsylvania is 20. So if Pennsylvania was 20, that would take Donald Trump to 86. And it would have to be all 3. All 3 would have to be overturned. Because at 306... 270 is the magic number. At 306, Pennsylvania has 20 electoral votes. That would take him down to 296. Or no, I'm sorry, it'd be 286. So 286. Michigan has 16 electoral votes. So if Michigan were overturned, that would take him from 286 down to 270. 270 is still enough. Wisconsin would have to be overturned also. So all three. Which then begs the question, where's the ridicule from the media against Hillary Clinton? Where's the outrage from the left at Hillary Clinton? Come on, folks, let's turn this around for a moment. Just hypothetically, let's pretend that Hillary Clinton was the one who won. And we'll say Donald Trump, to make it all even, let's say Donald Trump took the popular vote, but that's not how elections are decided in this country. That's not how our founding fathers set it up. That's not how the Constitution set it up. That's not how the campaigns campaigned. If presidential elections were won by popular vote and not electoral college votes, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump wouldn't have campaigned the way that they did. Their strategies would have been entirely different. Each one of them would have spent the entire campaign in about a half a dozen cities. Hillary Clinton would have spent all her time in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago. She had about a half a dozen cities, and that's the only place she would have went. Donald Trump would have spent all of his time in big Democrat cities. He would have spent all his time in Dallas and in Houston and in Atlanta, Georgia, and he would have spent all his time in big cities that are predominantly Democrat. And then you know what would have happened? The overwhelming majority of the states in the country would have been ignored in the election. And the smaller states would have been totally and completely ignored in the election. That was the genius of our founding fathers in setting up the electoral college system the way that they did. It forces presidential candidates to visit all the states. It forces them to visit smaller states. It forces them to visit lower populated areas as well, because it makes those people's votes count too. So, but if it were the other way around, and Donald Trump won the popular vote, but Hillary Clinton won the electoral college, the constitutional election process, and won it in a landslide, 306 to 232, what do you think would be going on right now in the media and among liberal Democrats? And what would they be saying about Donald Trump if Donald Trump was refusing to accept the election results and instead demanding recounts, joining a recount effort in 3 states where he lost not by 100, not by 500, but by tens of thousands of votes, that there's no chance of being overturned. And dragging out the process of America accepting the change of power, the newly elected incoming president, and trying to bring together healing in this nation. Come on, what would people be saying about Donald Trump? Wouldn't they be saying, what a baby, what a crybaby, what a sore loser? He's further dividing this country. Think about, you know what they'd be saying, folks? They'd be saying, wow, it's a good thing Donald Trump didn't win the presidency because he's shown just how unprofessional he is, that he's actually willing to join a contested effort in this election. Wouldn't we be hearing that? Anybody out there hearing that about Hillary Clinton? We're not, are we? The media's just reporting this. She's joining the recount effort with Jill Stein. They're just reporting it as though it's a matter-of-fact news story. They would absolutely clean Donald Trump's clock if this were the other way around. Donald Trump says this is nothing more than a scam by the Green Party to do this, to raise money. Which, by the way, do you know that Jill Stein has now raised several $1 million as part of this effort to challenge the election results? She's raised more money for this recount effort than she was able to raise for her entire presidential campaign. Did you know that? Where do you think that money's coming from, folks? It's coming from Hillary-supporting Democrats who are throwing money any way possible to keep Donald Trump from taking the White House. I want to remind you, folks, of something else, too, okay? Donald Trump, during the third debate with Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump was asked by Chris Wallace, hey, will you accept the election results? And he said, well, I'm going to wait until, we'll wait and see. He said, quote, I'll look at it at the time. I'm not looking at it right now. So he reserved the right to say, I don't know yet. We'll see the outcome. Which, by the way, I had no problem with that, because anybody should say, what if it's really, really close like it was in 2000 with Al Gore and Florida? Of course you have to say, well, that's too close. We have to challenge the results. But here's what I want you to remember, folks. When Donald Trump said, well, it depends, there's a chance, depending on what happens, there's a chance that I might contest or challenge the outcome. Remember what Hillary Clinton said from the stage? Let me quote her. Quote, "That's horrifying," end quote. She said that Donald Trump suggesting that he might not accept the results of the outcome is, her words, quote, horrifying. Okay, Hillary, do you consider what you're doing now horrifying? But Hillary Clinton wasn't done. She went on to say this, chastising Donald Trump, basically telling him, when I win the election, you better not challenge the election results. You better not. Here's what she said to him, quote, "That's not the way our democracy works. We've been around for 240 years. We've had free and fair elections, and we've accepted the outcomes when we may not have liked them, and that is what must be expected of anyone standing on a debate stage during a general election. President Obama said the other day, when you're whining before the game is even finished, it just shows you're not up to even doing the job." She went on to say, he's denigrating, talking about Donald Trump, he's denigrating and taking down our democracy. I, for one, am appalled that somebody who is the nominee of one of our two major parties would take this kind of position. She went on to say, I truly doubt he has even read the Constitution, end quote. That's what Hillary Clinton said about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump said, I might or might not accept the election outcome. We'll see. Now, Hillary Clinton can take all of those words she said about Donald Trump, but can't she apply them to herself? And by the way, Donald Trump won the states in play by tens of thousands of votes. Not dozens, not hundreds, tens of thousands. All right, you're listening to The Bob Duco Show.